Hi, it's Susan Knisely, and welcome to today's episode of iTravelNurse TV. Nice to see ya. Today's episode, we're going to talk about taxes and contract staffing. Now, this is hella important, people, when it comes to your take-home pay. Now, this is a complex situation in which it is complex yet individualized, yet it doesn't have to be as complex as what people try to make it out to be. Now, there is a number of different factors that affect everybody's individual tax situation that has to do whether or not they're married, whether or not they have any kids, whether or not they own property and investment accounts and so forth. Now, bringing in contract staffing or travel nursing or doing agency work is just another factor that can actually be used to your advantage as far as saving money in taxes. However, it needs to be done correctly. And like I said, this is hella important. So if you know nothing about contract staffing or doing your own taxes, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that you need to learn about it. Now, there is a corporation called Nolo. Nolo is a publishing corporation, and they publish a number of books about the IRS and about handling your own taxes. I recommend you take a look at them, especially ones that come from an attorney named Frederick Daly. He is an expert at taxes and handling the IRS. Very good reads. You can find these books for well under $30. A lot of them are available for download either on Kindle or in other electronic download forms. So check out Nolo, the Law for All. I'm a big fan of the Nolo Corporation. A second resource is I need you to take a look at the Rich Dad Corporation. If you have not heard of the Rich Dad Corporation, it is another publishing company, but they also do seminars as well. Robert Kiyosaki, if you've heard of him, he is a well-known author, has been on the New York Times bestseller list for his work on helping small business people and helping people with investments. They call it the Rich Dad Advisor Series, and they have books on handling the IRS and tax situations as well. And one of my attorneys that I was working with many years ago is actually a business attorney in the Rich Dad Advisor Series. His name is Garrett Sutton, and he has written books, Start Your Own Corporation, Own Your Own Corporation, depending on which version you buy. Take a look at that. He is a Nevada corporate attorney. He's out of Reno, Nevada. Actually, many years ago, him and I were going to do a seminar for nurses at the Tropicana in Las Vegas on these kinds of issues: business planning, contract staffing, taxes. However, some crime interference related to my now missing son interfered with that actually transpiring. So, but anyway, take a look at the Rich Dad Advisor Series, Garrett Sutton. Okay, another good resource for you if you don't know how to do your own taxes, know nothing about taxes, is take a look at TurboTax. TurboTax is a fantastic resource that will actually walk you through your tax returns and how to enter what you need to enter based on the questions that they ask you. But keep in mind, you have to answer the questions truthfully, or TurboTax is not going to be able to calculate your taxes, even contract staffing, correctly. So you got to be truthful. Now, if you just think that this is way the heck over your head for you to be able to manage. Now, like I said, I encourage you to at least do some homework on this. But if you want to hire a professional to do your taxes, my recommendation is to actually hire a tax attorney over a CPA for a couple of reasons. CPAs, while most of them have like good business training and all of that, there could be some complex legal issues involving your own personal situation. It may have to do with things such as maybe child support. It may have to do with investments that you may own or debts that you owe. And my gut feeling is that I think a tax attorney is going to be able to handle that for you better than a CPA, and certainly better than places like H&R Block and so forth, because a lot of times those places just train people off the streets to be able to do your own taxes. Now, Now, Tax Advantage in contract staffing can help you actually keep more of the money that you are being paid versus paying it to the IRS. But keep in mind, it has to be done legally, or you're going to get jacked with an audit. Okay, so now there is a program that these travel companies have set up. Now, your recruiters will probably tell you about it when they're talking to you. It's called a Tax Advantage Plan. And a Tax Advantage Plan is just sort of it's become like sort of an industry term as to how a travel nurse company, or sometimes even an agency, can put you into this category, into this employment category, and help calculate some of those taxes for you. And what usually has to happen is that you have to fill out a form saying that you meet the requirements to be able to take advantage of a Tax Advantage program. Okay, so now what is a Tax Advantage program? A Tax Advantage program allows for the company that you're working for, be any travel nurse company, or like I said, any agency, to be able to allocate money, your money, into different tax categories. Okay, so it could have to do with housing. You could get housing benefits tax-free. You could get meals and incidentals tax-free. Okay, so but that all depends on whether or not you meet the requirements to be able to take advantage of that. Now, usually they say you have to live greater than 50 miles away from your permanent tax home in order to qualify. And what qualifies you for a permanent tax home is based on your ability to produce evidence that you actually are paying expenses in a certain location. Now, let me put that like more in English for you. So let's just say where you live now is your permanent residence. Okay, now you would have to prove, not necessarily to the travel company, but to the IRS, if you ever get audited, that you are actually paying expenses in a certain location, such as rent, or utilities, but mainly rent, whether that's separate or all-inclusive, that you are paying rent in a certain location and that you expect to return to that location within a specific time frame, usually within a year of you leaving and working in another city or state. Now, if you cannot prove that in a paper trail, that's what's going to hit you in an IRS audit. Now, there are other ways to still be able to take advantage of working away from maybe say where you are now, or being able to write off business expenses on your taxes by still doing contract staffing. But those are things you're going to have to like learn about as time goes on. But if you cannot meet those requirements for the Tax Advantage program for your travel company, even if you fill out the form, like I said, you could be hitting the back end, but you can still write off things like cell phone, office expenses, travel expenses, and so forth in other ways when you do your own personal taxes, whether you do it quarterly or doing it at the end of the year. But keep in mind, you can actually save yourself money by learning about IRS codes, by learning about some of the tax advantages you can take doing contract staffing, being a travel nurse or an agency staffing. But it just has to be done correctly. It has to be done according to code. So like I said, my recommendation is to learn more about this topic through the resources that I gave you, and consider consulting a tax attorney for your own personal situation. And I really, really want to highly emphasize this, times 10. Do not let a travel nurse company, a recruiter, or anybody in a company or even an agency tell you how to do your taxes. And if they question you on anything about your own personal tax situation, you tell them to shove it and don't even take the contract, because your own personal tax situation is your business, not theirs. You don't ask a company on how they do your taxes, on how they do their taxes. You would not ask your contract company how they do their taxes. So don't answer any of their questions on how you do yours. But keep in mind, the Tax Advantage program by these companies can work for you if you meet the requirements. So that's today's episode of iTravelNurse TV, Tax Advantages for Contract Staffing. I'll see you next time.